Well, season one, it's the start of everything.
Hmm.
So I don't rank that higher than a few other seasons. But it starts it all. The first episode is one of the best episodes. At least in the beginning. Now we've hit some episodes that completely overshadow the entire first season almost entirely. But just a few things. I mean, it's really just the setup of all these characters and where we're going. We don't know much about Jon Snow. We really don't know much about anybody. And by the end, by the end, we truly get a grasp on who everybody is, especially like the sons of Ned and all of Ned's kids, Jon Snow, Daenerys,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
it
definitely.
I would say it was triumphant. And by the end, when we go to Ned Stark's death, it was like the first WTF moment
Yep.
in Game of Thrones is when Ned dies. Because I think I watched the first season like around the time like only the first season was out.
Interesting.
Uh, well, I think season two might have been out already, so I take that back. But I remember watching it, and that was because I think um, the whole show has been mostly spoiled for me in my time watching it, and I think it is kind of my fault because I think I may have looked too much into Game of Thrones before watching it,
Mm.
and that was a mistake, and I don't think anybody should do that. But this was the first WTF moment, personally, just for me too, because at that point I had no idea what Game of Thrones was, like hardly at all, except me just watching the show, and then that happens, and I truly felt like everybody else who watched the
Hmm.
show, and I didn't even know it, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
which I
that's actually really cool. I do agree. I think that there has to be a WTF moment. It's interesting that that was your first one. That was not the first one for me.
hmm
For me, I would have to say probably my first WTF moment was when Khal Drogo gave Daenerys' brother the gold crown he desired so
oh
much.
yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
probably the first. I remember watching that episode and just being like, "Wow, like this is so different than most of the shows on television." And it offers you a fantasy world that you can just, escape to, but it also shows you the grittiness of life,
Yeah,
which is not normal for TV. TV is supposed to be something that's unbelievable, but Game of Thrones takes the unbelievable and it shows it to you in a very real way. And
totally true.
and that for me was that moment when I realized this is a show that I'm just gonna get lost in because I felt so connected to that universe, and then I'd have to say that moment when Ned Stark gets his head cut off, because I think that that's a really big scene, because
Oh yes,
because that's how the season starts.
that's the first like big death like in the entire show.
If you think about how Game of Thrones season 1 starts, it starts with Ned Stark cutting someone's head off, and then the
Yeah,
episode, pretty much besides Joffrey, taunting uh, um, Ned's
Joffrey.
daughter,
Yeah, yeah, Sansa. Yeah,
he pretty much the one of the final scenes is Ned getting his head chopped off. So I like that it goes full circle, and it just, so for me, season 1 always hold a special place in my heart. It
oh yeah,
was, the moment I saw the end of season 1, I knew I'm gonna be with the show to the end.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
nothing that they can do that's really gonna upset me enough to make me not want to be a part of this.
yeah. The last episode, definitely in particular, with
Hmm.
that was now there was a few WTF moments in the season. Yeah, and you're bringing me some light back to those. Like the first episode, like Bran witnesses Cersei and
Yes.
Jaime having sex.
Hmm.
Like you're just like, oh wait, and then he pushes them out the window. In the first episode, so much stuff happens. So the first episode is really good,
Hmm.
and then we get to the end, and that is when I truly fell in love with the show. Truly,
Hmm.
is when Daenerys walks out
Oh,
unburnt with the dragons, and I was like, oh my gosh,
I
this
I
is
think that is a
amazing.
moment. That is a moment for all Game of Thrones fans because you can't be a Game of Thrones fan without being a Khaleesi fan. I think
Oh yeah.
so. So when you see that, you may have been watching it and you believe that she should be queen, but you're not really a true believer. But it's
None yet,
that
yeah.
moment when she emerges with three dragons unburned. I believe.
Hmm.
I be true for she is the true queen of the seven kingdoms. She
Yeah,
is the queen
we
of the
really think
Andals and
so.
the first men. It's just
Yeah, we have a lot of high hopes for Daenerys, and like throughout the other seasons, it starts to ramp up more and more and more. Like usually ends with Daenerys
hmm
until maybe the later seasons. So
Yeah, I think literally every season ends on a Daenerys scene except for the end of season 5.
I don't think four does. However, I think at least one of those, because I know one of those it ends with. I think even season two ends with the White Walkers marching, and then it completely ends off that. But most of them like truly end off with like a huge Daenerys moment. Most of the time, I feel,
Which
especially
is
yeah.
interesting because we get that moment in the second to last episode of season 5,
Uh
but
huh.
we're getting ahead of ourselves there.
A
Let's
little ahead
move
of
from
what's that?
season 1 then we'll move on to season 2.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
for me, season 2 again, it's going to hold a special place in my heart because I love Rob and that
Yeah.
was a season of Rob
That was
to
almost Rob's
his own.
season. Just
Yeah,
totally.
he really became the who he is as a character, and I really just fell in love with the whole dynamic, and I just it made me get a Game of Thrones poster. It made me
Yeah.
become the true fan of Game of Thrones I am today. And I say Targaryen, that's who I support because I am a true
Yeah.
believer of Khaleesi, but the North will rise again, okay? Because the North will never forget.
They will
And
never forget.
I blame Rob for giving me this mentality. I still believe he's the true king of the North. He's the wolf, man. He's
Yeah. Yeah. The king in the north. That I mean, later on down the road, I mean, it may see once he died, it leaves a heavy a heavy burden on your shoulders. But I'm getting past myself. But yeah, Rob Schnarr, King of the North, is this his season? I don't. He doesn't get married to the chick in this season.
mhm.
It starts off the North remembers. That's the first episode of season two, and he's dealing with that, and he's
Mm,
kind of just this is where it turns Rob into like a one of the older kids into a man. Like
mhm.
he has to become that man.
Well, he
The
becomes he becomes instantly in that moment the king of Winterfell.
the king, yeah.
And that changes him. I mean, you're exactly right. He has to then realize, you know, I can't I have to be the one that they're going to come to for wisdom. I can't go ask my father. It's not that kind of situation anymore. People are
Mm,
going to look to me now. So
yeah.
I have to rise to this. I have to become the man my father thought I could be, and I have to get justice for his unjust death, which was completely unjust, especially because he even said exactly what Joffrey wanted to hear. But that is also, I think, something we need to talk about for season 2 is Joffrey's development because he
Yeah.
I mean, we all remember this little kid from Batman Begins that Batman hands one of his stethoscopes to, and it's Gordon's little kid,
He's
and
changed, man.
and now we're seeing this guy, and he's portraying Joffrey, and I hated him so much. That whole season, every episode, you would go into it thinking, I can't possibly hate this guy anymore, and you do. He
It's
finds a new way.
yeah, it is the season where Joffrey truly becomes the worst.
He is the
Just
second coming of the Mad King.
we've talked about him possibly becoming the Mad King in the future. Mad King Aerys Targaryen.
And
It starts off with the first episode. He shows Sansa the head of her dead father. That's one. Two, a guy sings a song for him and cuts out his tongue. Th- It starts to become ridiculous, and you hate him so much. But this kid, the performance is fantastic. That he portrays such a hateable person. Like this kid, like I see a future for him, like in what he's doing. Like it's crazy.
but then that would move us to now. See, I love season two, but I wouldn't rank season two very highly because at the end of season two is right when Game of Thrones hits what I would consider its stride. Seasons three and four absolutely were just breathtaking, phenomenal seasons of
Yeah,
television.
yeah, because in season two, it had one of the most boring, like the Jon Snow storyline. So, felt super boring until the very end, and that was the same thing with Daenerys. The whole thing in
Hmm.
Karth
Yep.
and everything, and her leading to that point. Like those storylines were kind of boring up to the very end. Like Jon gets captured officially by the wildlings, and you're just like, oh, who are we about to meet? It ends up being Mance Rayder, which
Hmm.
comes truly big into the third season. Like Daenerys and
And
Jon
Ingrid.
and Ygritte, and they become two of the most engaging storylines in
Yep.
season three. That's where
Hmm.
it starts off,
Yep.
truly.
And then with Daenerys, immediately in season three, she takes she takes it to this new level. Okay,
It's a
she
whole new level.
now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the season where she gets the Unsullied,
The
and
Unsullied, yeah, by the very end. Yeah, well, not at the very end. Like in the middle of the season, she goes
yes,
to Young Kai, gets the Unsullied, and then in the and the
that
Unsullied.
whole thing felt so odd to me
Yeah,
because I I was watching it as sort of a where is this gonna go? Is she really gonna sell her dragons for
yeah,
soldiers? I was very confused. But
yeah,
when it comes full circle and she tells them to fire and they kill him, oh my! It's that moment. It's like you and I talked about. The she feels sort of humanized and sort of like you feel like you've been with her on this journey, and you're right there with Jorah. You're sitting there thinking, yeah,
Jorah.
I could maybe be with this kind of girl, and then she
Yeah,
does that, and you're like, okay, nope, she is leagues above me. This girl is
yeah,
way too much of a badass. I
yeah.
can't even march with her.
No, she is too badass at this point. She is more than a normal man at this point. Like she is the queen of dragons. She becomes way better than all of us, and I love it. I also, before we get way too in deep with this season, I want to give a shout out to the episode Blackwater, in the season
Yes,
two, which was
yes.
probably the first big budget badass episode that we even
Mhm.
got, like ever.
That
In
that is that is one of those moments where if you weren't already a Tyrion fan, which I don't know how you could not be,
Yeah, it was a good Tyrion
you
season.
were after that.
Yeah, and that solidified Tyrion as
Hmm.
being one of the best characters
Is
in
as
the
you
entire
said,
show.
that's when Tyrion he's one of the first characters to reach it besides
Hmm.
Daenerys. That's when Tyrion hits God mode. That's when he becomes untouchable.
Yeah, really though. He's so and Peter Dinklage, amazing.
And now speaking of untouchable, a person we haven't talked about's development through 1, 2, and 3 is Arya Stark, who has probably one of the most unique storylines in the entire show.
It's starting to become in like even the later seasons. It's starting to become super crazy, super awesome with the face god
Hmm.
and everything. But see, I mean, we technically see her running around through a lot of seasons, but a lot of things are happening, and there's a lot of people on her list that she wants to kill. And it's kind of a lot to really digest in one conversation. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that happens with Arya Stark.
exactly. I mean, she truly, I don't know why, but she is truly Arya Stark is the consistent sound throughout the song of Ice and Fire. We have Arya Stark is always going to be there, and you just when an Arya scene pops in, you're never disappointed with the scene, and you're never unhappy that it's happening. But she's not the most, you know, pivotal. You're not going to see an Arya scene, and you're not going to be like, "Wow, this is why I watched this episode." But you're always comforted that it's there.
Yeah, at least at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm talking seasons 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So, and season 3 is kind of where Arya's storyline starts to pick up intensity because I know I've done a little bit of research on the many-faced god, and
Hmm.
if you look at the seven pillars of light in terms of the the religion that sort of has existed throughout this realm that Cersei sets really into motion in the later season 5,
Yeah.
that religion has one of the seven gods is a no-named god, and he has no
The
face.
Stranger.
The
Yeah.
stranger. I
Hmm.
believe the stranger is the many-faced god.
Very possibly. Yeah, that's a good theory right there.
Now, that is interesting because if Arya is uniquely connected to the gods in this world, a lot like Bronn is, because she has been, she witnessed the Lord of Light in season 3, and she got to see men die and come back to life, and really Arya she's already as a young child, she's seen things that a child should never see, and she's done things a child should never do, and she's growing up in such an intense way, and I think season 3 is really where that development turns up and starts
Yeah.
becoming so much more vivid and interesting.
Yeah. Arya is a little badass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say
Needle.
that.
She didn't
Needle.
throw it away.
She did not throw it away, which I was happy at the same time. But if she would have thrown it away, I probably would have been fine with it. Because I'm just like, okay, this is kind of your growth of a character.
I would not have been okay with it because I love that she's training to become an assassin, and I really think that she's going to have this amazing character arc with this whole many-faced gods thing. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I want to see her return to Westeros, and I want to see her kill Cersei. So, you know,
There is a lot of hope for her storyline in the future. It's
yes,
been, you love her storyline because it's interesting, but we're ready for it to truly pick up. And I think at the end of season 5, we really start to see that. But back to season 3, so much happens
mm.
in season 3. It's the first truly, I think. I don't know. I don't want to say great season. They're all great, but this
I
season,
see what you're talking about. Yeah, like season 3 is where it hits into fourth gear, and it just starts going so much faster than it has before. It's so much more intense.
truly,
The weight of all the actions that are happening in season 3 start to become so much. You start to see consequences of these actions ripple throughout the world.
yeah,
And like for the Red Wedding example, we had never seen that big of a character killing in Game of Thrones yet. That was huge. So many
that
characters died instantly.
that was huge. You're left thinking, what is left
Hmm.
for me? And this season, it shows the downfall of Rob from like the very beginning. Half of his army leaves him,
Yep,
and
Karstarks. Which
it's
the Karstarks are still in the north. So I believe,
really, yeah.
what's to stop them from uniting under Braun?
Yeah, I feel if John ends up, living in the end, I feel he is kind of the key to the North,
Hmm.
in my opinion, and I kind of
Interesting.
have thought that for a while. I'm just like, they think he's the key to the North because since Rob's dead, and
Mm.
what do you have? Jamie being. He's pretty much the entire season is
Oh,
under
yes.
captive by Caitlyn and Rob, and then
We
Caitlyn
must
lets him
talk about
go.
Jamie because up until season 3, I hated Jamie. I thought he was a douche.
He was a
And
dude.
I just didn't care. I was like, Jamie could die in this prison cell, and I'm not going to care. But then he got his hand cut off,
Then he got his hand cut
and
off, and
everything changed.
yeah, he found out he wasn't. This is a different world than what he's grown up. A
Mhm.
Lannister boy, thinking he can always pay his debts, and then he's truly brought to a humanizing level, a level with everybody else, and he knows that, and Brienne of Tarth knows that,
hmm Yeah,
and
that was also a huge development for her as well because she had been through a lot in season 2, falling in love with Renly and then having to watch Stannis's the shadow of Stannis's face kill Renly and then was blamed for it and then vowed to return the Stark girls and now Cat's dead, so what does it even matter? And so
yeah,
she is going through a lot in season 3. And she's sitting here with this guy who's also going through a lot. And the most unlikely of duo sort of bond in a really meaningful way.
and and like I've said before, like we definitely need to see a buddy cop movie between Brienne of Tarth and Jamie. Also, we hear of Jamie's backstory of why he's called the Kingslayer in the
Yes.
very end, and that truly brings him down to a humanized level because we're just like he's known as this Kingslayer, this horrible person who betrayed the king. But we know why because the king was going to set fire to everyone, and
The king was going to kill everybody in King's Landing. And and he killed him because, that's what any of us would do.
that's true, true.
And
So yeah.
it's like you said, it's a very humanizing moment for Jamie, and this whole season is just filled with these moments. Season 3 could pretty much be classified as Jamie Lannister's redemption. I mean, that's what we watched the whole time.
It's his best season. It's how
Absolutely.
like we truly like Jamie now because of season 3. Like we like him
Yep. Yeah.
truly as a character, and we didn't like him because we thought he was just a pompous windbag.
I went from being I've always supported Tywin. I think I've thought Tywin was really cool, even when Arya was his cupbearer. I
Oh,
thought
cupbearer,
Tywin
yeah.
was awesome from the beginning. So Tywin, I was always on board with. Tyrion, I loved from episode 1 when he said, let them call you a bastard. If they call you a bastard and you don't care, then it can never hurt you. I
They
was
can
like,
never take it
okay,
away from
I'm
you.
sold. This is a midget, and he is way cooler than anybody else in this show. So,
Tyrion is amazing. We love Tyrion.
but I
He's
was
had such a
split.
good.
I was split half and half because I hated Jamie and I hated Cersei and I hated Joffrey. So I was sitting over here thinking, the Lannisters are all bad, and then all of a sudden in season 3, there's this change.
There's a
and
change.
now and now the Lannisters are split. Now I hate Cersei and Joffrey, but I like Tywin, Jamie, and Tyrion. So
Yeah,
I'm very confused.
yeah. We kind of like Tywin, and by the end of the next season after that, we don't really like Tywin anymore.
I honestly still liked Tywin as a character. I thought
No,
he was the best bet to rule the Seven Kingdoms besides Daenerys. I
I
felt
think.
like no one else was really capable of running that kingdom well, besides maybe Tyrion. But he's a dwarf, so he's never going to be king.
Yeah, I was always mixed on Tywin. Like he's kind of a badass, but at the same time, I don't know. He started to just kind of be too much,
I've
and
always felt very sorry for him because I feel that he had this whole vivid plan for how he was going to create this Lannister dynasty, and he talks about it in season 1, and it all just sort of fell apart. And it fell apart the day that his wife died in childbirth and his son was a dwarf, and
yeah,
it changed everything,
he's not
everything.
pleased with his children by
And
no
so
means.
yeah, so this I felt bad for him that he's just trying to make the best of a bad situation he's been handed.
Yeah, I mean he did double cross the Targaryens back in the day, but it was the Mad King, so you
Yeah,
kind of
that's
see it, but at the same time.
I mean, that's just good tactics, honestly. I mean, I don't think Tywin ever had any desire to make a truce with the guy who was, out here burning people all the time and
Yeah.
killing people for fun and just, they didn't like the king in the first place anyway. So,
No.
when Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark are knocking on his door, you
Yeah,
know,
I think that there's there's worse people out there, but at the same time, Tywin did send the order to kill Robb Stark, Catelyn Stark,
oh,
and his wife.
and
He
honestly,
sent that order.
and it's hard for me to say this because I mean, you know how much I love Rob, but I feel for Tywin. I really do. I feel like he did what he felt he had to do to win that war. And honestly, it's Rob's fault anyway. It was a stupid decision to he should have never killed that guy. He wouldn't have
Never.
lost the Karstarks. Then he would have taken Harrenhal and he would have won the war. But no, this is Rob needed to lay in the bed he made for himself.
And he married the girl. And this show is truly a big when it comes to what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
That the show is and I'm pretty sure George R. R. Martin probably knows that, and he's like, this is what I
I
mean
mean,
for the
Arya
show.
Stark is still by the end of season 3, she is still talking about the butcher's boy.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
is still pissed about that,
And that comes
and
that
that
kind of
comes
brings us
around.
that kind of brings us into season 4, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the Red Wedding, but now
Yep.
let's get into personally my favorite season, and I think this is the best season ever. I mean, it starts off with this is here's after the repercussions of that. Jamie is back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's going on with Rob? But Prince Oberyn from Dorne is in town. It's a huge Tyrion Tywin season.
Yes, huge Tyrion Tywin season, and I love because I I as a Tywin fan to see the way that he went out, I just it was so hard to watch, but yet at the same time I was like, that's the only way you were ever gonna kill him, you know?
I was like, "Eat it, bastard, Tyrion."
It's
just,
the
just,
only way Tyrion was ever gonna kill his father.
well, he's on the crapper in the
Gotta get
middle
him
of the
while he's
night.
on the crapper, Elvis style.
Yeah, Elvis style. That's how you do it.
Because if Tyrion goes at Tywin while he's standing up, even with a crossbow, I really feel like Tywin is nimble enough to jump around and he will get that crossbow and he is punching Tyrion in the face. But when a man is taking a dump,
You're
okay,
vulnerable.
you are at one of your most vulnerable positions.
Truly.
And plus, you have to be sitting there thinking, my son's really not gonna kill me. Is he? Is he gonna kill me?
And guess what? But he wanted Tyrion to die, and now what goes around comes around. You're dead. Tyrion is heading off.
All
But
Tyrion wanted, all Tyrion wanted was his father's approval. It's the reason he played the Game of Thrones. And he never got it. He did everything he could do. He even saved the city from certain defeat at Blackwater, and it still wasn't enough. So you know what? Tywin had this coming.
he did. He did. What goes around comes around.
But season 4 was awesome, and we got to talk about the Purple Wedding
The
because
purple. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
because this is the moment. That was the moment I had been waiting for so long, for so long. Just and it came out of nowhere. I didn't know that there was a thing called the Purple Wedding. Okay, I didn't know Joffrey died at a wedding. So the moment he starts like, oh, I need to wash this down. Pie is dry. I didn't think anything of it. I was actually kind of sitting there thinking, this is kind of a boring episode. And then all of a sudden he starts choking. He starts choking, and I'm like, whoa, this is
what?
And then he just dies in this horrific way. Cersei's screaming. She points at Tyrion. At that point, I was like, Tyrion, get out of here, man.
And that's another thing where I feel disappointed in myself because I knew that he was gonna die, and I knew what episode he was gonna die in. So all these things that I could have watched for the first time without knowing anything have been spoiled for me so many times, and that's just a big disservice. You
Yeah,
know,
that is a disservice to this show because it's such a moment, for because Game of Thrones it stinks that you knew going in because it's one of the things that they do so well is sort of bait you into this lull of an episode. Think about the Red Wedding. The Red Wedding is a very calm episode. It's very relaxed all
yeah,
the way up until the point when the arrows start flying. And the Purple Wedding is exactly the same way. It's very calm and relaxed until Joffrey starts to die. And in
yeah,
that point
totally.
everything turns up, which leads to probably, I would say honestly, my favorite episode in Game of Thrones. I love Tyrion's trial. I think he should have won. I think he should have won an Emmy for this
He totally should have. He
because
totally.
this. I wish I had enough poison for the whole lot of you. I wish I was the monster that you think I am, and I wish
Oh,
I had killed Joffrey because it gave me so much pleasure watching your bastard die. It
oh
was
my
so
god.
powerful, just the speech he gave, and then to end that episode on a demand of a trial by combat, which we all know ended up as the Red Viper versus the Mountain. So,
A fight to be remembered. That was
yes,
crazy. I
you killed
loved.
her, you raped
Ah,
her.
I loved Oberyn. He was starting to become one of our favorite characters.
He
But
was.
then again, it's another Ned Stark situation. Before a person becomes god status, they have to die.
Yep. And 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 what goes around comes around because basically, the Lannisters, they indirectly are responsible for Oberyn's sister's murder and rape. They are basically indirectly responsible for Oberyn's death. And so you know what? Dorne struck back, and Dorne took Marcella because what goes around comes around. And it was about time that the Lannisters felt at least some kind of retribution from all the Dornish blood that they spilled.
The Lannisters need to feel a lot of retribution for a lot of things.
Really, though.
They are one screwed up bunch, and there's almost nothing we hate more than them. But then again, you have Jamie and Tyrion, so it kind of makes up for it. You're just like, we kind of just hate Cersei at this point.
Now,
Like,
on a lighter note, I would highly recommend anybody who's listening to look this video up. It's so much fun. I saw a video of the fight between the Red Viper and the Mountain, and somebody had used special effects to turn the Red Viper's staff into a double-sided lightsaber and the Mountain's sword into a lightsaber.
oh my
And
god.
they put the sound effects in every time it clashed, and it was so cool. And it actually made that fight even more impressive and interesting.
I have to see that video because I have yet to even hear about this at this point. That just
You got
sounds
a lot to catch
awesome.
up on, man. It's been. I wish you could have been with me throughout all of these years.
I really wish I could. I just I decided after all that time that I was officially gonna watch it, and I'm really late to the party. I'm super late,
Hey,
but
you
at
know
the
what? It couldn't have come at a better time. Season 6 is right around the corner,
I
and things
know
are about to get way crazier than they've ever been before.
if everything happens for a reason in this world, then that definitely that definitely happened at a good time. So yeah,
so, so
yeah.
then was that move us from season 4 into 5?
I mean, I think we should talk about at least the ending, like the true end of season 4. You have Bran making it to the
Yes,
Three-Eyed Raven,
yes,
and wow, he's gonna be a dragon rider. He's gonna be a
yes,
dragon rider.
yes. I have been saying this now. I want all of our viewers to know. I have been saying this for a long time since season 2. I believe that there are 3 dragon riders, and I know Jon Snow's dead, but he's one of them. And Bronn is gonna warg the other one, and Khaleesi is gonna ride Dragon. And I believe that. But we just have to see. I think the Red Lady will probably bring Jon Snow back in season 7, and I definitely think that they're all gonna ride dragons in season 8, or at least
Man,
somewhere along the line. There's
I
no reason that the child would say you won't walk again, but you will fly.
But you will fly.
There's no other reason to believe that he's a dragon rider but that. That's all you
like
need.
I mean, hell, he could sit on the dragon. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have to exactly warg the dragon because if he's saying, you won't walk again, but you will fly. Like, because he can warg somebody to walk, so
Yeah.
that doesn't
I
mean he can
believe,
actually
yeah,
walk.
I've always thought what they would do is they would all get on the dragons, and then once Braun was on the dragon, he would warg with it.
He'll just need like a brace or
Yeah,
something,
something
like
just to hold him
they
in.
did.
And even if you put him in some kind of brace and lock to where he can't fall off, and he wargs that dragon, he has now become one of the most destructive and tactical battlefield. I mean, that's a dragon being controlled by a human being mentally. That's terrifying. That's
That is,
Smaug level, okay?
yeah, because usually dragons cannot be really controlled like directly by
Mm-mm.
any one person. Like they're always gonna like maybe be a little bit, not completely in control. But this one, he could possibly, like that would happen if he does become a dragon rider. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. Also, also besides that, I think the only other thing that ends on season 4 is when Arya is off to Bravos, Valar
Yes.
Morghulis,
All men
Valar
must
Dohaeris.
die.
Yeah, all men must die. It's like it's the start of season 5, which leads us into season 5, which I feel is a very strong season, at least for half of it.